Let me tell you something about the market that most traders learn too late. I was 14 years old when I first walked into a brokerage office in Boston. I had no money, I had no connections, I had no teacher. What I had was curiosity, and I had eyes, sharp eyes, eyes that could stare at the ticker tape for hours and see things that other people walked right past. Back then, I worked as a board boy. My job was simple. I posted the stock prices on a chalkboard as the numbers came in off the ticker. Every day, hour after hour, price after price. Most boys in that room saw numbers. I saw something else. I saw behavior. I saw the market breathing. I saw it hesitate. I saw it accelerate. I saw it lie, and then I saw it tell the truth. I started writing those numbers down in a small notebook, not to brag, not to show anyone. I did it because I noticed something that nobody else seemed to care about. The prices moved in patterns. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough to matter. I was not predicting anything, I was observing. There is a difference, a very important difference, one that took me decades to fully understand, and one that I believe is the reason most traders today are losing money they cannot afford to lose. They are trying to predict the market. I learned early that you cannot predict the market. What you can do is read it, and reading the market is an entirely different skill. The market is not a puzzle waiting to be solved. It is not a machine you can figure out once and then operate forever. It is alive. It is made of people. It is made of fear and hope and greed and desperation, and those emotions are never the same twice. I made my first real trade at 15. I put a few dollars into a bucket shop, those small, illegal off-exchange offices where a man could bet on stock prices without actually owning any shares. I was not supposed to be there, but I had been watching prices long enough that I was not guessing, I was reading. That first trade made me a small profit, then another after that. People started noticing. They thought I was lucky. I knew I was not lucky. I was watching, I was waiting, I was acting only when the evidence in front of me was clear. But here's the thing about early success. It is dangerous. Not because success is bad. Success is good. Early success is dangerous because it teaches you the wrong lesson. It makes a young man believe that trading is easy, that the market rewards cleverness, that all you need is a sharp mind and a little courage. That is not true. That has never been true, and every trader who believes that lesson will eventually pay a very high price to unlearn it. I know because I paid that price more than once.
The first time I lost everything, I was not a boy anymore. I was a man who thought he knew the market. I had been right so many times that I started believing my opinions were facts. I started holding positions that were moving against me because I was convinced I was right and the market was wrong. Let me say that again so it settles in properly. I believed I was right and the market was wrong. That is the most dangerous thought a trader can ever have. The market is never wrong. The market is what it is. The market does not care about your analysis. It does not care about your opinion. It does not care about how long you studied the charts or how smart you think you are. The market will move where it moves, and if you are standing in the wrong direction, it will move right through you. I held a position in cotton once. I had a strong opinion about where prices were going. The price started moving against me. Did I exit? No, I held. I added to the position actually. I told myself I was simply buying at better prices. That is what I told myself. But the truth was I was hoping. I was refusing to accept that I was wrong. Hope is a fine thing in life. In trading, hope is a poison. By the time I finally accepted the reality in front of me, my losses were catastrophic. What should have been a small, manageable loss had become something that wiped out nearly everything I had built. I sat alone that night and I asked myself an honest question. Was the market wrong or was I wrong? The answer was obvious. It was painful, but it was obvious. The market was never wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong to ignore what the price was telling me. I was wrong to let hope replace observation. I was wrong to let my ego convince me that my opinion was stronger than the evidence. That night changed how I traded. It did not change immediately in practice, bad habits die slowly, but it changed something fundamental in how I thought about the market. A loss is not a failure, a loss is information. It is the market speaking to you clearly and directly. It is saying your timing is off, or your read is wrong, or the conditions are not what you believed them to be. The market is giving you a message, and that message costs money. The only question is how much you will pay before you listen. A small loss listened to quickly is the price of doing business. A large loss ignored and allowed to grow is the price of pride. And pride in this business is something you cannot afford to carry. I made it a rule. When a trade moved against me by a certain amount, I was out. No discussion, no negotiation with myself, no convincing. Out. That rule saved me many times over. Not because every trade I exited turned out to be truly lost. Sometimes the price came back and I had exited too early. That happened. But here is what I discovered over years of trading. The trades where the price came back cost me a small amount when I was wrong. The trades where I ignored the rule and held cost me everything when I was right that I was wrong. The math is simple. The discipline to follow it is not.
Trading must be run like a serious business, not a hobby, not an adventure, not a game, a business. Think about what a real business owner does. He plans. He knows his costs before he opens his doors. He knows how much he can afford to lose before he is in trouble. He does not bet the entire business on a single outcome. He protects the enterprise above everything else, because without the enterprise, nothing else is possible. Most traders do the opposite. They walk into the market with excitement and emotion, chasing after profits, ignoring the risks. They act as if the money they are risking is not real, or worse, they act as if losing it will somehow be made right by the next trade. It does not work that way. Capital is everything. Capital is your business. Without capital, you have no trades. Without trades, you have no income. Without income, you are finished. The first priority of every serious trader is not to make money. The first priority is to not lose money. Those sound like the same thing. They are not. One is offensive thinking. The other is defensive thinking. And in trading, the traders who think defensively first are the ones who survive long enough to trade offensively when the moment is right. I preserved capital obsessively, not out of fear, out of respect for what capital represents. Capital is not just money. Capital is the accumulation of your correct decisions and disciplined behavior. Every time you lose capital carelessly, you are losing more than money. You are losing the product of your discipline. Protect it. Treat it like the most important asset you have, because it is. Now I want to talk about the real enemy in this business, and most traders will not like what I'm about to say. The real enemy is not the market. The real enemy is not other traders. The real enemy is not bad luck or bad timing or the manipulators in the big institutions. The real enemy is sitting right behind your eyes. It is your own mind. Fear, greed, impatience, hope, pride. These are the forces that destroy trading accounts, not market movements, not bad information, your own emotions. I watched fear destroy traders who had excellent analysis. They would identify a good trade, place it, and then watch it start moving against them slightly. Nothing serious, just normal price fluctuation, and they would panic out. Then the trade would do exactly what they originally expected. They were right. Their analysis was right, but fear robbed them of the profit.
I watched greed destroy traders who had already won. They would make a good profit on a trade, and instead of taking what the market had offered, they would hold. They would want more. The trade would reverse. The profit would shrink, then disappear, then turn into a loss. And the same trader who was up nicely would end the day down simply because greed refused to accept a reasonable reward. Impatience is perhaps the worst of them all. Impatience causes traders to act before conditions are ready. They see something moving and they jump in, not because the opportunity is clear, but because they cannot stand the feeling of sitting still. They need to be in a trade. Sitting on the sidelines feels like doing nothing. And so they trade when they should be watching, and they lose when they should have been patient. Revenge trading is another one. A trader takes a loss, it stings. He wants to get that money back, right now, today. He goes back into the market immediately, not with a clear head, not with careful analysis, but with anger. He is not trading the market at that point. He is fighting the market. And the market does not fight. It simply moves. And if you are fighting instead of observing, you will lose again and again until there is nothing left to lose. The market does not know you exist. It does not care about your feelings. It is not targeting you. It is not trying to hurt you. Every loss you take due to emotion is entirely self-inflicted. That is a hard thing to accept, but accepting it is the beginning of real improvement. The trader who controls his emotions will outlast every trader who does not, every single time.
Let me tell you about patience. Most people understand patience as waiting, simply waiting. That is not what I mean. Patience in trading is an active skill. It requires intense focus. It requires discipline. It requires you to sit with uncertainty and discomfort and not act. I would sometimes go weeks without making a significant trade. People who knew me would ask why I was not trading. I would tell them, the conditions are not right. They would look at me as if I was being foolish. The market was moving every day. There were prices changing every hour. How could the conditions not be right? But they misunderstood what I was looking for. I was not looking for movement. Movement is everywhere. I was looking for clarity. I was waiting for a moment when the evidence was so clear, so strong, so undeniable, that acting on it felt less like a decision and more like a confirmation of something that was already happening. That kind of moment does not arrive every day. Sometimes it does not arrive for weeks. And the trader who cannot sit still during those quiet weeks will force trades that are not ready, and he will pay for that impatience. I had a rule I followed strictly. I never acted on what I thought the market would do. I acted on what the market was already doing. That is a very important distinction. Thinking about what might happen is opinion. Acting on what is already happening is observation. One is speculation, the other is discipline. When a stock was moving strongly in one direction with clear confirmation behind it, that was when I would act, not before, not when I thought it was about to move, not when someone told me it was about to move, only when the price itself was already showing me in unmistakable terms that something real was happening. That is patience, not idleness, alert, focused, disciplined waiting. I want to talk about something I spent a great deal of time studying, the rhythm of the market. Every market has a rhythm. It does not move randomly, even though it can feel that way to someone who is not watching carefully. There are periods of quiet. There are periods of accumulation, where the big positions are being built slowly and silently. Then there are periods of movement, where the price breaks in one direction with conviction. The trader who cannot tell the difference between these phases will be confused most of the time. He will be active when the market is quiet, and he will hesitate when the market is moving. He is always one step behind. I studied price behavior the way a scientist studies a natural phenomenon, not to control it, not to outsmart it, but to understand it deeply enough that I could recognize the signs of what was about to unfold.
When a stock had been flat for a long time and then began to move, I watched very carefully. How it moved mattered. Did it move with strong volume? Did it hold the move? Did it retreat only slightly before pushing forward again? These were signals, not guarantees, but significant signals that something real was beginning. When those signals appeared clearly, that was the moment to act. And when I acted at those moments, I was not guessing. I was confirming what the market was already showing me. The market is always communicating. Price is the language it speaks. Most traders do not listen. They talk over the market with their opinions, their tips, their analysis, their predictions. They are so busy speaking that they cannot hear what the market is saying. Quiet yourself. Watch the price. Let the market speak. And when it speaks clearly, act. That is the entire discipline, stated simply. I want to be honest about something. I was not always disciplined. There were times in my life when I broke every rule I knew to be true. And every single time I broke a rule, I paid for it, without exception. There was a time a man I respected told me to get out of a trade. I knew I should have listened. Everything I believed about the market was telling me to exit, but I did not want to. I was profitable and I wanted more. I ignored the signal. I stayed in. The trade reversed. I lost the profits and then I lost capital on top of that. That loss was not the market's fault. That loss was entirely mine. I knew what I was supposed to do. I chose not to do it. And the market had absolutely no mercy for that choice. Discipline is not something you can turn on and off based on how you feel that day. Discipline is either something you have or something you are building. The moment you decide that today is an exception, that today the rules do not apply because you feel confident, or because someone you trust gave you a tip, or because you simply do not want to follow the rule right now, that is the moment you become a gambler instead of a trader. Gamblers rely on luck. Traders rely on discipline. Luck runs out. Discipline compounds. Before I leave you with a final thought, let me share the principles I return to again and again over my trading life, not as rigid laws, but as truths I discovered through experience. Cut your losses quickly, every time, without hesitation. A small loss now is always better than a large loss later. There are no exceptions to this, none. Let your winning trades develop. When you are right and the market is moving in your direction, do not rush to take the profit. Let it breathe, let it build. The biggest profits come from having the patience to stay in a good trade long enough for it to become a great trade. Never average down into a losing position simply because you believe in your original analysis. The price is telling you something. Listen to it. Adding to a losing trade without clear confirmation from the market itself is not conviction, it is stubbornness. Do not fight the direction of the market. When the market is clearly declining, do not look for reasons to buy. When the market is clearly rising, do not look for reasons to sell. The overall direction of the market is the most powerful force in trading. Work with it, not against it. Do not trade on tips. Do not trade on rumors. Do not trade because someone who sounds confident told you something was going to happen. Trade only on what you can observe yourself, with your own eyes in the price and behavior of the market in front of you. Sit out the times when you have no clear read. Cash is a position. Not trading is a decision. The most disciplined thing a trader can do is absolutely nothing when conditions are unclear. Preserve the capital. Wait for clarity. Act when the evidence is undeniable. Keep records. Know exactly what you have done, why you did it, and what the result was. A trader who does not study his own history is doomed to repeat it. Every loss contains a lesson. Every winning trade contains a reminder. You must know both intimately. I have had a long and complicated trading life. I made fortunes. I lost fortunes. I rebuilt from nothing more than once. I experienced failure so complete that most men would have walked away permanently. I did not walk away. I went back to the ticker tape, back to the price, back to the fundamentals of what I knew to be true. And every time I went back to those fundamentals, observation, discipline, patience, capital preservation, I found my footing again. I am telling you this not to impress you. I am telling you this because the market you are trading today is not so different from the market I traded a century ago. The instruments are different, the technology is different, the speed is different, but the human beings on the other side of every trade are the same. They feel the same fear, they act on the same greed, they make the same mistakes driven by the same emotions, which means the same principles apply. If there is one thing I want you to remember after everything I have shared today, let it be this: the market will always be here tomorrow. Your capital may not. Protect your capital above all else. Be patient enough to wait for the clear opportunity. Be disciplined enough to follow your rules when emotion is telling you to break them. Be honest enough to take a loss quickly and completely without letting it grow into something that cannot be survived. The market is not trying to give you money, but it is also not trying to take your money. It is simply moving. It is simply behaving. Your job is not to force it. Your job is not to outsmart it. Your job is to observe it with complete clarity, act only when the evidence is in your favor, and preserve your ability to trade another day. That is the whole game. Stated simply, lived with great difficulty. But this I know with absolute certainty. The traders who master these things are not the most clever. They are not